Would you please all rise and join me in a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic and one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the secretary please call the roll?
Do we want to swear in the new member first?
Well, let's call the roll first.
Am I including him?
No.
Not yet.
Okay. Mr. Bongiovanni?
Here.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Gaffney?
Here.
Ms. Brock?
Here.
Mr. Ray? Mr. Riley?
He's coming in.
Riley is?
Yeah, he's trying to get in, Danielle.
Okay. Mr. Tappan?
Here.
Councilman Schindler?
Here.
Mayor Francis?
Here.
Mr. Gilbert?
Here, we have a quorum. Okay.
There's Phil. Phil's in.
Good. Would Mr. Haggerty please swear in the new member of the board, Jonathan Taylor, as alternate 2, filling an unexpired term until December 31st of 2021.
Mr. Taylor, are you with us?
Yep,
Mr. Taylor, do you have the oath in front of you? I hope you do.
yes, I do.
Okay, and please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the oath you're about to read will be followed and observed during your term as Land Use Board member? Mr. Taylor? Mr. Taylor?
It looks like he's frozen.
Yeah, it looks like the screen's frozen.
Okay.
All right, well, unfortunately, we'll have to postpone the swearing in for a couple minutes. Let's go to new applications instead of continued application, because the continued application is one where we're going to need Mr. Taylor.
Alan, do you want to do minutes first?
Yeah, okay, let's do the minutes. Where is that?
I guess I missed the pledge of allegiance.
That's okay.
Mhm.
The minutes of the May 18th, 2021 meeting were electronically distributed. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Done.
Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Bongiovanni?
Abstain.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney?
Yes.
Mrs. Crock?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Tappan?
Abstain.
Councilman Schindler?
Yes.
Mayor Francis?
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert?
Yes. Is Mr. Taylor available yet?
Yes.
Okay, let's try again. Mr. Haggerty, will you please swear him in?
Mr. Taylor, please raise your right hand and state your name for the record, Mr. Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, you have an oath in front of you.
Yes.
Danielle sent you the oath of office?
Yes.
Okay, you have it in front of you.
Yes.
Raise your right hand, and while you're reading it, have your right hand held high, okay?
Yep.
Go ahead and read it.
I, Jonathan Taylor, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear the true faith and alliance to the same government established in the United States and in the state under the authority of the people, that I will be faithful, impartial, and justly perform all the duties of the alternate 2 Class 5 Land Use Board meeting of the Borough of Hopatcong for the best of my ability. So help me God.
Very good, very good. Okay, now sign that form if you would.
Yep.
And then turn that to Danielle, and then we'll have that in the records. And I want
Welcome,
to,
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Taylor.
Okay.
Sorry about the internet problems.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Schindler and Mayor Francis are going to recuse themselves when we continue the application for Bella Rosa. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Schindler is
Says
recused.
yes.
That's correct.
Francis is going to be recused, which means that Mr. Taylor is part of this discussion now.
Mr. Taylor, you have either read the transcript or listened to the audio tape of the hearing that we had in the Bella Rosa Realty matter. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
You're going to sign a statement, and Danielle will email that to you to say that, in fact, you did. Since you did, you'll be able to participate in the Bella Rosa application. Where we left off at our last meeting where we addressed Bella Rosa was that we retained jurisdiction. The application was not approved, but we retained jurisdiction because one of the focus issues for the board was the exterior treatment of the rear of the major proposed residential building. And the applicant has provided an amended architectural plan in an effort to address that concern. So that's just a snapshot of where we are in this.
Bill?
Before we hear additional testimony, I would like to point out that I received an email from Mr. John Young today in reference to this, and I will not read that. It will not be considered because it's only hearsay.
Okay.
You know,
One of the questions that was presented to me is, well, how come I didn't do a resolution tonight because we did not vote, we denied the application at the last hearing. The reason is because we retained jurisdiction. And I
right.
think it would be fair to the applicant to charge to potentially prepare two resolutions. So depending upon what the board does tonight, either, it would just be an affirmation of the denial or a reconsideration and perhaps a different vote.
Right.
Mr. Allen, may I say
Go
that Mr. Ray has joined us, and Bill, if you can, myself and I think Mr. Gaffney has looked at the video and reviewed it as well, so we can participate in this as well. Do we have to sign off on the same? Do you want to memorialize that while we're here?
Yeah, yes, we'll have that statement furnished to the both of you. Then we should have a total of 7 eligible voting members.
Right.
Okay.
And
I just wanted to be upfront with that. I wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
right. And
Yeah,
in order to pass a resolution on this, we require 5 positive votes, I believe.
Yeah, and we should have 7 people voting. We shouldn't
Yes.
have 9. We should
Right.
have
Right. In addition, let me just point out that one of the board members did question me about the fact that there is no request for front yard variance. And that is because the front yard variance was taken care of previously. When the buildings were originally put up, they were closer than the 40 required 40 feet, and it was taken care of at that time, so it doesn't have to be done again. So with that, do we have, who is, Mr. Melmont?
Yes,
Everybody is,
good evening.
everybody
Yes,
is,
can you hear me okay?
let's have people sworn in again, just to be sure. So anybody who's
Yeah,
going,
I'll just do a brief intro. We have one witness tonight, Mr. Chairman, just by brief introduction. Mr. Haggerty's done a good job kind of summarizing where we left off. You may recall the board actually approved 2 minor portions of the application. The awning by the beauty salon and also the side entrance to the existing building were approved, and the board did not look favorably upon the balance of the application. But the board retained jurisdiction and basically invited us to look at making changes to the rear of the building that may in fact, sway some folks to see the application differently.
right,
After talking with my client about that, he decided to actually try and make that change. We have filed a revised plan with the board. Mr. Ryan DeVenny is here tonight. He's the architect of record, testified previously. I was going to have him get up and testify about the revisions to the plan. If you care to swear him again, that's fine. I see he's on the screen. So, Mr. Haggerty, your pleasure.
Yes, Mr. Devaney, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Brian?
And Mr. Devaney, you're still licensed as an architect by the state of New Jersey,
Yes, that is correct.
and you provided your qualifications at the last hearing.
Correct.
Yeah, we accepted him as an expert witness.
Mhm.
Correct. So, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, I know you submitted a revised plan, which I think we should mark, Mr. Haggerty. My record, I think we're at A16, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
and we just called this revised architectural elevation. Ryan, could you put that in the screen for us, please?
Sure. Okay, can you see my drawings?
Yes.
So why don't you walk us through what you've done since last time and highlight the differences between what we had before and what we have now?
Okay. Well, I'll show a drawing. So this was the previous submission for the project. This was the original rear elevation. And as you can see, it's a pretty plain elevation. So we decided to make several changes to make this building more aesthetically pleasing. So this is the new elevation. So as you can see, we are adding shutters to all of the windows on the rear side of the building. We are adding a 3-foot high stacked stone veneer. Basically the rear facade of this building is going to be as aesthetically pleasing as the front facade. So this building essentially has two front facades. And yes, those are the main changes that we made. So basically the shutters and the stacked stone veneer. And
it's the same stone. The stone is the same as the front as in the back. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, we wrapped the same finishes from the front of the building around to the back. So yes, the 3-foot high stacked stone veneer now wraps the entire building, and every window on this building now has shutters.
And you provided plantings.
Okay.
You show a row of plantings along the rear of the building now.
Yes, I'm showing 6-foot high shrubs spaced evenly across the back of the building.
And in all other respects, the plan remains unchanged from last time. This is the only change you've made?
Yes, there have been no changes to the plan. We've only modified the rear elevation.
So building
once again,
location, building size, all that is exactly the same. So really, it's just an aesthetic change to the rear of the building to make it look more attractive. Is that essentially what's happened?
Yes, that is correct. Because some comments came up at the last meeting that in the winter, all the residences would see the rear elevation of the building, and they would see that the finishes were quite simple. So we decided to update the rear elevation of the building so that all the residences behind will now see a more aesthetically pleasing elevation, and also all the cars that are passing the building. When they pass the back, they're going to see the more aesthetically pleasing elevation that I've designed.
Okay, thank you. I've got no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Melmont. What is the pleasure of the board? Anybody have comments, questions?
They don't pass the back of the building cars, right?
No.
Not directly, but as you're passing the building, you can get a glimpse of the rear facade. So now that has been addressed.
Those are the only changes, correct?
Yes, correct.
No building profile.
That's correct.
Overhangs, no other that we asked for, or I asked for.
There have been no updates to the footprint of the building.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Are we allowed to ask a question that doesn't relate to the back of the building?
Sure. Yes, we're discussing the entire project now.
So I have a quick question. How many, by the math, I assume that there are 24 apartments. Is that correct?
16.
There's 10 units in the rear building.
No, the total project on 2.5 acres is how many apartments?
I think it was 17 or 18 units total.
You've got 48 parking spaces, 2 cars per parking space. That's 24 apartments. Is that right or wrong?
Hold on, let me check my
Trying to
notes.
check them. Yeah.
I think we went over this.
Mr. Blaney is on, but I can help us with that. Ken, are you there?
Yes.
This is Mr. Blaney. He testified last time. He's the owner. If you just confirm the number of units again so we're clear on that.
Just give me 1 second.
And he's still sworn in.
Yes.
Yeah.
4, 6, 10. There's going to be 10 in the rear, 3 new units on the corner. 2 units in 31, 4 units in 33, 6 residential and 1 commercial in 35. So that's 10.
25.
25 plus 1, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
That's correct.
Okay.
So my next question is, multiple of those units are more than 1 bedroom, is that correct? They're 2-bedroom apartments?
All of the units in the 10-unit building are 2-bedroom apartments.
And several of the other apartments are 2-bedroom apartments, is that correct?
There are, if I may, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the units are 1 bedroom.
So 20 units are 2 bedrooms or more, is that correct?
19 of the 20 units are 2 bedrooms and 1 unit is 3 bedrooms.
Okay. How many children do you think will be living in those apartments?
How many children?
Yep.
I have no idea. I can tell you that right now in the existing property, as it exists now, there are 2, 4. There are 4 children, 2 toddlers, and I think that's it. I think there are 4 children there.
So
Are these questions going toward parking spaces? Is that what we're looking at?
No, this is not going to parking space. The question goes,
Okay.
the question is leading towards, what provisions are you making for multiple families with as many, you could have as many as 20, 25 children in that property. For play space, moving space, there's no room. You've got 2.5, I don't know what it is, 2.1, 2.5 acres, and you've got 25 apartments. And I don't know, I'm just really concerned about safety, about people living in those apartments and kids. There's no place to play. The only place they can play is back in the wetlands. There's no place.
True, they can play behind the buildings, and there are parks in the area too. I don't know what else to tell
It's
you.
also, you don't typically
There's
see
gonna be
lots
one
of,
behind the
you
building
don't
in
see
the back.
lots of, you also don't typically see many children in units of this size.
I mean, if I could step in here, we approved the Mariners Point development with 35 units. We didn't worry about provisions for children playing. I don't, there's plenty of parks in town that the children go play in. I mean, I don't see the point here.
Plus, Mariners Point has a dock that doesn't have a fence on it, on the water side. That, I don't think you can get more dangerous than that.
Keep our eye on the ball, guys.
Yeah, for real.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Any
it.
other questions?
Yes, I have a question about the parking. I brought it up last time, the size of the parking spots. I'm looking at the 6 spaces in the back now. I wonder if it's possible to reduce that to 5 spaces, which are 10 feet wide instead of 9 feet wide, and have a sign back there for large vehicle parking. As I pointed out last time, I have a large vehicle, and parking is a problem when I only have a 9-foot wide spot.
Mr. Gilbert, if I may,
Understood. Good, Ken.
After the last meeting, I went across the street to Smiles. And I measured the parking spots there, and they were only 9 feet wide. And that was very recently passed by this board. I then got in my van and I drove over to Mariners Point, at which point I measured those parking spots as well. They're all 9 feet as well. So I don't understand why I'm being treated differently than these two very recent approvals.
The 9x18 is
Those
also,
are 9
the 9x18.
They're 9x18.
I'm tired of hearing that the 9x18 is according to standard, because we in Hopatcong have our own standards. And we have every right to have our own standards. And 10x20 is our standard.
You waived those standards the last, when those two applications were before you.
Those two applications
Did you
were a
not?
couple of years ago that I don't consider that very recent. And besides.
Well, what's more recent than that? Because I'll go measure those parking spots.
Well, every plan is treated separately. That's all I have to say about it.
Well, I, in all due respect, sir, I think you're being unfair to me.
Okay. Anybody else from the board have any comments, questions? Seeing none, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to comment or question this application at all? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and on the reactions, raise your hand. Mr. Reschke, do you have something to say? No?
No, I got one here. Brian Attis.
Okay, Mr. Attis.
There you go.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Please raise your hand to be sworn in by our attorney.
Mr. Addis, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Addis, you're an adjoining owner, if I recall, and you previously addressed this application?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Just a couple questions and then some comments. Question on the back, the elevation. I just wanted to know, from my backyard, from the wetland swamp area, from that elevation, how far up is it to where your 28 feet starts? So, I mean, I don't know if you know the answer to that or not, but is it like another 10 feet or another 20 feet from basically that swamp area to the top of your structure? And then, of course, I need to know, well, I want to know, how wide is this one building now that it's a single building versus two?
Okay, Brian, so your first question relates to the height of the building. Is that correct?
It does, but it relates to the height of the building from basically the wetland. So my backyard. So how much higher is it?
Well, if you know the answer, Ryan, why don't you put up the site plan again? I think also Mark is on the call as well. Maybe he can help with that, but.
Okay, well, first, I can answer the height question first.
Yeah, I know
so
it's 28 feet.
Well, it's 28 feet plus about another 2.5 feet. So I would say 31 feet from the grade to the top of the roof. And I would say, the wetlands are, maybe slightly below this grade line, maybe 1 or 2 feet, but we're still underneath the 35-foot height requirement.
Oh no, yeah, I totally get that, because that's you're doing it from that location. I'm just talking from a visual perspective. You're saying it's 1 to 2 feet down, lower at the swamp than it is.
The site is fairly flat, so it couldn't be more than just a couple of feet.
Does anybody know?
This is the site plan.
Right.
I mean, I only see a couple of contour lines on here, so it can't be more than a couple of feet.
And how long is this building?
The total length of the building?
Yep.
The total length of the building is 176 feet, 7 inches.
And how big is the piece of land that how wide is the piece of land that it's going on? Approximately?
I don't have an immediate answer for you on the width of the lot, but this is the site plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, you have the setbacks of each end of the building. Right? So that would give you your answer.
Any other questions?
So then the other, well, somebody actually brought up Mariner's Point, and I thought that was an interesting point to bring up, because how many acres is Mariner's Point built on versus 2.5 acres over here? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
Yeah,
I don't see the relevance, frankly.
yeah,
Well,
Mariners-
somebody on the board
Mariners
brought it
Point
up,
is
so I have the right to
approximately 10
ask that
acres.
question. 10 acres?
Yep.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or concerns that people want to question this applicant? Ron, do you see anyone? Oh, Colleen Lyons, Ms.
Yeah,
Lyons.
Mary Mose was up as well.
Okay, we'll do, I called Colleen, so let's do
Okay.
Colleen first.
Colleen, you're up.
You're muted.
Can you hear me?
There you
Yes.
go.
Ms. Lyons, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And you're speaking on behalf of the Lake Hopatcong Coalition?
Commission, yes, that's correct.
Jeez, okay. Yep.
So the Lake Hopatcong Commission reviews land use board applications within the watershed, and then just makes recommendations based on, impervious coverage, things that could impact the water quality of Lake Hopatcong. So our planner did review this and commented that, that this property is presented as a mixed commercial, where the impervious coverage requirement would be 65%. But in reality, it's kind of functioning more like a multifamily with one commercial unit. And that would be typically a 40% with the R1A or R2T zoning requirement. And also that it seems like a bit of an overutilization of the property with 26 units on 1.6 acres. So, things to consider for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. Ms. Modes, you're next. Mara Modes.
Hi.
Raise your
I'm not
hand,
sure.
please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I'm not sure if this was addressed or not, but at one of the meetings, there was brought up about the apartment that you had to park in the back and you had to go into walk all the way around and go into the front, which was on Lakeside. So I was wondering if that was addressed.
It was. It certainly
Okay.
was. It was addressed at least twice in one of the previous hearings. And it is what it is.
Okay. That's the way I thought it was left, but I didn't know if it was going to be brought up again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Ron, do you see anyone?
I don't see anyone else.
Okay,
Alan?
then I will bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Alan, just a quick comment before the board takes action. Yeah, I would just say that if the board does look favorable on this application, just a couple of conditions that need to be imposed. One is that a final as-built plan be prepared so that we can verify that everything is constructed as per their design.
Okay.
They do need to comply with agencies that have jurisdiction on the matter, including the borough in regards to the road opening permit, sewer and water allocation processes and such, so they need to comply with those requirements. They also requested that the O&M manual for the stormwater system be a condition of approval. They did not supply that as part of the application. They asked for it to be a condition, and the stormwater management plan should be prepared in accordance with NJDEP's BMP manual. Certainly a lot of public comment has been made on the stormwater system. And I, as I stated in the prior meetings, is that I do feel comfortable with the calculations that it does not increase the amount of flooding that occurs, but there is a pre-existing problem with flooding in this area. The off-site drainage improvements are inadequate to convey major storms events, and that ultimately ends up backing up into the system and backs up in this area. And this area floods, and it will continue to flood. And so they will have an O&M manual to make sure that their stormwater systems are maintained properly. And I can defend this application as long as their stormwater systems is in fact functioning properly. So we may want to just add the condition that upon request that the applicant is to demonstrate that he's in full compliance with the O&M manual, which he is obligated to do anyway. But just to make it clear in the resolution that if it is requested, he has to demonstrate that he has maintained the system properly, and if warranted, demonstrate that the system is still working properly. And in particular, the pervious pavement. It is not something that lasts forever, and it does require maintenance. And you know, maybe a point in time where that needs to be reconstructed because it's not operating properly. And if that's not functioning properly, then it will in fact be exacerbating or creating stormwater impacts than what has occurred. And I just think it's important to properly document that so that the concerns that many of the residents have raised is properly addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Rushkey.
Mhm.
You got that, Bill?
I did. Thank you. That was
Okay.
helpful.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board? Does somebody want to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve this
I second
application
that.
with the conditions that John just put forth.
Okay, now this does require 5 yes votes.
I second the vote.
Ms. Rennie?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
No.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
No.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
No.
That was,
It has the 5 votes necessary.
yeah, I
The
think
vote
you
was
called,
5-3.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Let me ask one question. The applicant's very thankful and appreciative of the board working with us to come to this result. Recall the application involves both improvements to the existing building and construction of the new. The applicant would love to get to work on this stuff in the existing building right away. Hopefully the board would authorize that we can go ahead and start pulling permits to do the work on the existing buildings while we work out the various conditions we require for the balance of the project.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion for a waiver of memorialization?
Slow
I'll
down.
make that motion.
Danielle, call 8 people to vote
Stuff John has.
on that motion.
Hang on a second, Bill. Don't we have to do the stuff that John says first before we get engaged in the full project? Isn't there some paperwork there with the stormwater management and all? Shouldn't
That was
that be
all.
before we rush it into?
I made the motion. I made the motion with all those contingencies that John put forth, that he has to comply with all those.
Right, but shouldn't that stuff be in place? Because some of that is critical documentation before we rush this in, immediately start construction.
I don't think he's talking about starting construction on the new. It's the existing building. He wanted to put some awnings and stuff on, I believe. I don't know if I'm mistaken.
It's awnings. It's also doing interior fit-up work to convert the existing commercial to residential. It wouldn't affect the site improvements in terms of impervious coverage. It's interior work to convert the units. It's the awnings the board approved last time. So I don't think you need to have a full, in terms of the other conditions, wouldn't apply to this work. And Mr. Rushkey can certainly comment on that, but that's my view of it.
John?
Yeah, I think if the board wants to waive memorialization for the renovations on the existing building, that should not be a problem. But once they start doing once they want doing the new building, new parking lot, off-site improvements, all their paperwork should be in place for that.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, so I made a motion to waive the memorialization.
Okay, hold on. Back to Danielle, please, please. Danielle, did you call 8 people to vote that motion to approve? I counted 8.
I called Mr. Bongiovanni and, oh, I missed Mr. Taylor. I'm sorry.
You should have called 7. I counted that you called 8.
So I'm not calling alternates?
No, you had
But they were in place
of 7.
So no alternates.
A total of 7. If we have 7 regular members, that's all that vote.
So should we do a revote?
I think you have to.
Okay.
Okay, back to the vote again.
And Mr. Chairman, I noticed you voted no before. Is there a reason for that?
I'd rather not say.
All right. I mean, would one parking space affect your vote in any way?
It might.
And the concern we have is it puts us into a deficient parking space count in terms of number on the lot. That's why we're resisting it. And we also think the 9 by 18 is sufficient.
Okay. It's up to Danielle to call 7 people.
Regulars.
Mr. Duncan,
No.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
No.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. So it's
Okay,
5.
Thank you very much.
carried.
And then the motion to waive the resolution?
Waive
the,
memorialization to allow them to start retrofitting the existing buildings and do what's needed on them.
I'll make that
Why
motion.
don't we, Bob, why don't you restrict that to the existing?
Yeah, I'll waive the memorialization to the renovations on the existing building.
Okay, thank you. Is there, did
Second.
somebody second that?
Second. Second that.
Okay,
Mr. It's only the affirmative votes, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
and Mr. Gilbert.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you for working with us. Have a good night.
Okay. Our pleasure. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, good night.
Okay, we'll move now to new applications. Muso DeVecchi, Block 30508, Lot 16, 6D Road. The applicant would like to build a single-family home with amenities on a vacant lot. Is somebody here representing the DeVecchi? Mr. DeVecchi?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Attorney Daniel L. McCarthy III of Hopatcong on behalf of Muso DeVecchi, who I believe is with us by telephone tonight. And we also have Kevin Robine of the Dykstra Walker Engineering Firm. I believe that they will both be testifying, so we'd like to have them sworn in.
Okay, Bill, you want to swear them in,
Yep.
please?
Each of you, please, right hands. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. McCarthy, could you introduce Kevin Robine?
Mr. Robine, could you tell us what your professional qualifications are?
I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of New Jersey. Standing is standing in good standings with the board. I've been licensed since 2012 and testified in front of numerous boards in various townships and municipalities in New Jersey. I've not had the pleasure in front of Borough of Hopatcong yet, but glad to be here.
Is there any objection to accepting him as an expert witness? Okay, we will accept him. Go ahead, Mr. McCarthy.
Okay, Mr. Robine, if you wouldn't mind, please, could you introduce the application and in particular pay close attention to the variances that we are seeking and what we've done to ameliorate some of the non-compliances?
Certainly. To begin, the property is known as Lot 16 in Block 30508. Property address is 60 Road. Has frontage on D Drive, which is a paper street, and Oakwood Road. And it's also located at the end of Eugene Place. Doesn't have direct frontage on Eugene Place, but it's kind of where the intersection of D Drive and Eugene Place come together. I'm going to share my screen with the plan that we have prepared. Second. So the property is here. Just to get oriented. This is the D Drive right of way here. It's unimproved. Currently, a water main connecting Oakwood Road up to Eugene Place to the north exists within that right of way. Oakwood Road is to the south, and Eugene Place ends at a cul-de-sac at the between or at the at the intersection with D Drive. Just to get a reference here. Property is located in the R1 residential zone district. Property is currently vacant with the exception of a few structures. There's an existing shed on the property to the northwest side. Here we're looking to have that. It's an existing non-conforming location. We're looking to remove that shed. It's not in great shape. There's no reason to keep it. Not for the current owner's use. And there's also an existing stone wall about a third of the way through the property off of Oakwood Road. Again, that exists today. There's no real plans to modify that. Our development plans are not within the area of that existing stone wall. There is an existing non-conforming condition associated with that wall, where retaining walls are not allowed to be within 5 feet of the property line, where the wall as it exists today is within 5 feet. And we're looking to maintain that, maintain the wall just as it is today and not make any modifications to that. I'll go into a little bit more detail with the specific variances that are required for the overall project. But I just want to give an overview of the property itself and what we're looking to do. So we're here mainly tonight because the lot does have a deficient lot width requirement. The minimum lot width for a corner lot, because technically we are a corner lot of Oakwood Road and D Drive, requires 145 feet of lot frontage as measured at the front yard setback. We have 103 feet of lot width at the setback rather than the 145. So that's an existing non-conforming condition requiring us to come to the board. And then moving forward with what we want to do on the property, we're looking to construct a single-family residential dwelling, which is permitted use in the R1 zone. Looking to orient that dwelling in a conforming location with respect to the front yard setback off of the D Drive Paper Street, as well as any rear yard setback, side yard setback, and any frontage setback off Oakwood Road as well. Ultimately, the property itself is 31,291 square feet, where the zone requires a minimum lot area of 15,000 square feet. So we have a rather substantial size lot, but it does offer a few constraints which we had to work with around the design of siting the house, locating the driveway, and also stormwater management, which I'll get into.
Yeah, Mr. Robing, before we get into that,
Yes.
I would direct you to the upper left-hand corner of your map. You have a key map there.
Yes.
Can you describe the shape and size of this property vis-a-vis some of the surrounding properties?
Yes, it's an irregular shaped piece of property. It is again oversized for the zone, for the minimum zone requirement. Not sure what the lot size of lot 15 to the left, but it's similar in size to lot 15, which is to the let's call it to the west of the subject property. The properties to the north and also to the east of the property are more in conformance with the minimum lot area requirement, closer to 15,000 square feet. I don't have exact square footage numbers on those lots, but in terms of the shape of the property with respect to the surrounding properties, it definitely sticks out as far as the lot size being greater than the minimum required, which is kind of out of character with the neighborhood. And that could be due to many reasons. There are, like I said, there are some constraints on the property which are affecting the ability to develop certain portions of the property that we're trying to fit within what we have to work with.
Okay, so continue on with the variances and your plan.
Sure. So we're looking to get access to the home off of the Eugene Place cul-de-sac by extending a driveway through into the D Drive unimproved right-of-way, and then turning to the west and into the subject property. There'll be a garage on the north side of the home, and also we'll have a front door on that side as well. So their access from that side of the property will be adequate and won't feel like a rear yard. It'll feel more like another fronting side of the property. And then the south side will also be configured in a manner with a covered porch, which would take advantage of some of the views, seasonal views that it has to the lake, overlooking some of the trees at lower elevations. So that's the reason for the covered porch around the south side. A couple other improvements that we're looking to do, maybe not in the immediate time as at the construction of the home, but there is a desire to have an above ground swimming pool. The applicant's looking to, he has a few children, is looking to have an above ground swimming pool on the property, which there is a variance associated with that. As D Drive is a unimproved right of way, it's still a public street. So it would technically be located within the front yard of the property. Similar in nature to the adjoining property, they have an above ground pool in similar locations. We're looking to maintain 15 feet of setback from the front property line for any proposed pool. And then just in general, the water and sanitary sewer services do exist in the Eugene Place right away, and we're looking to connect it to those municipal services in order to provide the home with potable water and sewer. Just to go specifically into the variances we're looking for, again, with the existing non-conforming lot width, that's section 242-38B2A, which requires a minimum lot width 145 feet, and whereas we're at 103 feet. And it represents an existing non-conforming condition, and I believe there were letters sent by Mr. McCarthy to adjoining property owners. I guess the terminology is the Nash letter, to determine whether or not any other interested parties were, or if there were any interested parties for the purchase of the property or any land that could be given to help alleviate those that nonconformity. I don't believe there was any responses to that.
None for me. Ms. Rennie, did you hear anything on behalf of the board? You're shaking your head. No, we can't hear you.
Sorry, no.
Now, the Nash case really applies to undersized, isolated lots. So I think it's great that you did that, but I think it isn't legally necessary.
And again, the next variance we're looking for is for the stone wall I had mentioned, and that's located here along the western property line. It's an existing stone wall. The variance section that we're looking relief from is section 242-28C1. And mainly what we're looking, why we're not looking to rectify that situation, it's currently located in a critical slope area. I'm going to scroll down to our steep slopes map, which defines the steep slope areas, which are slopes 15 to 25%, and then critical slope areas, which are slopes greater than 25%. Excuse me. The existing wall in this area is located within that critical slope category. So if we were to remove that wall, we would have to get access to that area with construction equipment and disturb additional steep slopes. So what we're trying to do in this application is minimize our disturbance to steep slopes as much as we possibly can. We just feel that, letting sleeping dogs lie kind of for the existing stone wall, as we're not proposing any improvements in that area, would be less of a impact than trying to rectify that variance situation. So we're looking to keep the wall as it is and request that.
What the height of that wall is, sir?
It's about 3.8 feet.
Okay, as long as it's not over 4 feet.
Yes, that is correct. It's not over 4 feet. Moving along, mentioned about the swimming pool. The variance associated with that was from section 242-14B5. Again, it's for the proposed location of the swimming pool within a front yard area where swimming pools are not permitted in a front yard. Again, it's consistent with the adjoining property that has a swimming pool on the west side of their property. And generally in the same location, so it's in character with some of the other pools in the neighborhood, and is an amenity for for the applicant's kids. Something to do. And again, it's not looking to be constructed at the time of the dwelling construction, but they did want to request that variance at this time in order to have that option in the near future.
Okay, I believe that we've taken a stand that if it's not started within 2 years, they would have to come back and ask for an extension.
Yes, that's understood. Thank you. Lastly, as far as variance relief is concerned, we're looking for a variance for the disturbance of 3,719 square feet of steep and critical slopes. The ordinance permits a maximum allowable disturbance of 2,500 square feet. That's from section 242-12B2. Essentially, when we first looked at this property and designed the house, we were trying to limit our area of disturbance and our impacts to steep slopes to within that maximum allowable 2,500 square foot range. And I believe our initial submission, which was the original date of the plan, December 11th, 2020, subsequent to Mr. Rushke's first review letter, I believe that was from February 2nd. He had a comment regarding stormwater management and soil testing. So in order to address his comments and concerns, we went out there and we did soil testing across the property and found that there was a shallow bedrock in areas that we were looking to do stormwater management, mainly in the eastern portion of the property. We're looking to put a few dry wells in there, but unfortunately the depth to bedrock there was too shallow in order to be able to support a dry well design. So we poked around a little bit more on the property, moving to the south, and we were able to locate soils with adequate depth to support a shallow infiltration system. Once that infiltration system was designed and sited based on the available adequate soils, our limited disturbance had to expand into more steep slope areas, which then put us into this variance condition where we're increasing our steep and critical slope disturbance to 1,219 square feet, greater than what the ordinance permits at 2,500 square feet. Since I mentioned stormwater, I'd just like to give an overview of how we've looked at stormwater for the project. Obviously, the main impacts to, or the main concerns during development and design of the stormwater management plan is to not impact adjoining properties or adjacent roadways. So we have two adjoining properties, Lot 3 and Lot 1 to the east of the property, and Oakwood Road to the south, where stormwater runoff will flow via sheet flow across the property and into the adjoining properties. And that exists under existing conditions today. And also it flows down to the south to Oakwood Road. So what we had done in our calculations, which were submitted in response to Mr. Rushke's February 2nd letter, was to analyze the stormwater runoff to each one of these properties and the right-of-way separately to ensure that we don't have any impact to those properties. So in order to do that, in order to demonstrate no impact, we have our shallow infiltration system located in the central portion of the property. That is going to pick up roof leaders and the majority of the driveway leading towards the Eugene Place right-of-way. There'll be a trench drain still on the property, however, as close to the property as we can without getting into the right-of-way of D Drive, and discharge that stormwater to the shallow infiltration system, the subsurface infiltration basin that we have designed. And what essentially that does is cut off runoff that was currently flowing undetained to adjoining Lot 3 and adjoining Lot 1. We're able to demonstrate a reduction in not only the peak rate of runoff to those properties, but also in runoff volume. So there'll be no time will there be any impacts to those properties. I do want to mention that our design is based on the 10-year storm event. The ordinance in general want you to look at the 2, 10, and 100-year storm.
I'm gonna take it.
We're requesting a waiver from analyzing the 2 and 100-year storm events. Essentially, we sized this system and did the design calculations based on the 10-year storm, which essentially encompasses the 2-year storm event. So we didn't provide specific numbers on that, so that's why we're requesting the waiver from the 2-year analysis. And as for the 100-year analysis, the development this size for a residential property, to design a system to capture and divert the 100-year storm stormwater runoff from the 100-year storm event, it's just not conducive to a development of this size. There's no main infrastructure, storm sewer systems, and the like to discharge to. And typically, developments of this size, you would size a system for 3 inches of runoff over an increase in impervious coverage, whereas we've designed the system more as on a global scale and try to take into account those individual drainage areas and size it for the 10-year storm to have some additional level of comfort that would not be impacting the adjoining properties. Just for reference, again, the typical design characteristics for a residential development would use 3 inches for rainfall depth and design. We're using the 10-year storm, which is 4.7 inches of rainfall depth over a 24-hour period, in order to justify the conclusions reached in our stormwater management report, which was submitted in support of the application. So,
Mr. Robine, just one quick clarification. Did you say that this lot, after the construction is complete and this stormwater management system is in place, will it be receiving stormwater from upgradient off-site and
yes,
discharging it within our site?
yes, that's correct. There are areas upstream of the property. I can bring up the drainage area maps in case anyone wants to see them. That outlines the areas. Again, they're kind of isolated. Let me do that. I'm going to bring up the.
Well, I don't know, unless the board members want to get.
Let's go to Mr. Rushkey and let's question Mr. Rushkey about that.
Okay.
Well, I just want to make one last point, Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Sure.
So if we're receiving water from areas upstream or upgradient, so to speak, are we therefore, after this construction is done, will be reducing the amount of water actually flowing off the site down gradient?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to illustrate.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Rushkey. John, do you have any comments or questions about what we just heard?
Yeah, well, the board should be aware that, well, they are aware because the ordinance came to you, but the borough did eliminate the definition of a minor development. So we do look at these homes in a less restrictive way than we have in the past. Not to say that when we look at a particular application, we can't impose, the appropriate stormwater controls on an applicant if they're coming in with a variance to justify the variance. In this particular case, the stormwater generally does flow towards Oakwood, so I'm not as concerned if this was discharging directly onto a neighboring property that could potentially have, negative impacts associated with stormwater. So I don't necessarily took exception to, design the system. It is large enough to accommodate those more common design storms of a 2 and a 10-year, but it does not address the 100-year. But it's the immediate concerns are you don't have properties downstream that I think we need to elevate that above what's required by ordinance.
Okay, thank you, John. And of course, Mr. Rushkey's comment number 3, that if you're going to build this driveway across the D Road right-of-way, that a maintenance agreement has to be required and that you have to first go to the governing body to get permission to cross it.
Yes, that's understood.
Okay. Mr. McCarthy?
I have no further questions for Mr. Robine unless the board does.
Okay, does the board have any additional questions for him? Any comments or questions for Mr. Robine?
Yes, I do, Chairman. Now, you say that this is a corner property and you said you have two fronts?
Correct.
Or we have an ordinance that says you only have one front. And so you might want to check that out. I think our ordinance that we changed defined the front of your property as the functional front.
Yeah, that's correct, but it is a corner lot, a technical corner lot.
Yes, it is, but it only has one front.
Yes, it only has one front. You're correct.
That's right.
Functional front of the home is what we consider the front yard.
So you might want to keep that in mind when you're making your improvements.
Yeah, I don't think that has any impact on the design or the, the putting that other door in.
Well, it would on the pool.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else from the board? Thank you, Mr. Robine.
Thank you.
Back to Mr. McCarthy.
Hey, I would just ask Mr. DeVecchi if he's still with us, if he has anything to add. I don't know that he will, but just in case.
No, thank you very much. I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Well,
Anything else from the board at this time? Any questions, comments from the board?
Do we need to see the design of the house or not?
I believe we did submit architectural plans with our package.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So there are architectural, maybe I
Yes.
saw them, but
The full architectural set.
Bedroom 1, bedroom 2, master. Yeah, it's a 3-bedroom.
I have no question about it, but I just wanted to.
I have them.
Yeah, I have them too.
They were part of our submission.
We all have them.
You all got them.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I will then open it to the public. Would anybody from the public like to comment on this application or question it at all? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and click on the reactions, raise your hand.
Oh, we got one.
Got one, Mr. Weiser, Robert
Yes.
Weiser. You want to raise your hand, please, and be sworn in by our attorney?
Mr. Weiser, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes. I live on 25 Oakwood Road, which is directly across the street from the property that we're looking to get all these variances on. I have a lot of concern with the critical slope disturbance and the percentage of which we are going to attempt to disturb it. Ever since they took the trees out of that lot, the water comes across the street and is washing out my front yard. I also have some concerns about what are we going to do with the existing tennis court that is there from Hudson Maxim, which is adjacent or up against that stone wall we spoke about earlier. I did not receive a Nash letter, so I'm not quite certain what that's about. And I also have a lot of concerns about the size of the lot compared to the home we're putting on. I am going to get washed out from that property. I'm getting washed out now.
Okay, does anybody want to comment on that?
Mr. Robine, is there anything you would like to add in response to Mr. Weiser's concerns?
Yeah, obviously stormwater management is a concern with any development property or project. And that's why we specifically looked at the adjoining properties and also the Oakwood Road right of way to ensure that we didn't increase any the peak rate of stormwater runoff or the volume of runoff leaving the site. In order to address those concerns so that there are no impacts due to the proposed development on your property.
So where's the guarantee that I'm not going to get washed out by disturbing 3,800 square feet versus what the town allows us to do of critical slope disturbance?
I mean, the assurance is in proper design and utilizing our engineering judgment and design philosophies in order to capture that runoff and infiltrate it into the ground rather than have it run off through the surface. As far as the analysis, based on our calculations, it should not increase any runoff to the right of way. If you're experiencing any kind of current runoff situations from the road entering your property, I mean, that might be a consideration for, either an asphalt curb or something that may need to be in place so the roadway runoff doesn't impact your property. But it's certainly not going to be increased by what we have planned.
Well, with all due respect, this all started when they tore that lot apart. Not the gentleman that's looking to build this house now. I'm all for that. God bless him. But when they tore all these trees down, we got everything from rodents to rain washing out my front yard.
Mr. Weiser mentioned something about a tennis court. Does Mr. McCarthy or Mr. Robine want to address that?
Near that stone wall, there is a level area. It's overgrown, and there's no intention to get down there and doing anything with that area except for potentially thinning out some brush to make it more aesthetically pleasing, but not looking to do any grading or reconstruction of anything in that area, trying to let things stay as it were.
Is it a paved tennis court, or is it a grass or
It's concrete. It's concrete. It was Hudson Maxim's concrete tennis court.
Mr. Robine, are you familiar with that?
Well, the survey was prepared by Lakeland Surveying. When they had done that, they were not able to establish an actual perimeter on that. And I was on site as well, and it's very overgrown through that area. So it wasn't able to be, it wasn't relevant to me that there was a paved concrete tennis court underneath the brush.
Mr. Reschke, do you know anything about that?
No, it doesn't, didn't notice it, frankly.
Okay.
It's covered. If there is.
Mr. Weiser, how long have you lived in the area?
2005 in this location, prior on the other side of town.
When did you notice that the concrete tennis court was there?
It's throughout history here. That's Hudson Maxim's tennis court and apple orchard. I live on his property with his bunker.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else, Mr. Weiser?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Would anybody else from the public like to comment or question this application at all? Anybody at all, please go to the bottom of your screen. And
We got one, Alan. We have one, Alan, Mr.
Okay,
Stein.
go ahead.
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I live on
Sir, please
7
raise your right hand.
You want to raise your right hand to be sworn in, please?
Sure.
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes.
And what is your name?
Nicholas Stein.
Spell your last name.
Stein.
Okay. And Mr. Stein, where do you live?
7D Road.
7D Road. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Stein.
As far as runoff, for me, my concern would be when their driveway comes out into the right-of-way D Road. I see they have a drainage grading there. I'm just hoping that they pitch the driveway that comes onto D Road back into their drainage ditch and maybe put a berm there, so it doesn't run across my driveway.
Where is your driveway, sir?
My driveway is, if you're looking at that plan there, it says paved driveway. My driveway actually crosses D Road.
So you're lot 3.
Yes. So it's been that way
Okay.
since I've been here well, before I've been here, because I bought the place in 93 or so.
Okay, so your driveway goes up toward Eugene Place.
Correct.
And would these two driveways merge? What is going on
Well,
there?
that's what, right now it's all dirt, except for my driveway, obviously. And he's proposing to have his driveway come out and go next to mine, I assume, and not cross over onto mine?
Yes, that's correct. The driveway will be located a few feet from the edge of pavement of your driveway,
Right.
and be within the limits of the D Road right of way. Again, going back to your stormwater management concerns, we do pick up the majority of or of the driveway up to the property line, and those upstream areas that currently flow across the property and onto yours. Previously mentioned about the decrease in the volume of runoff and the peak rate of runoff to your property, and that takes into account that piece of driveway that extends to the right of way that does not get into the drainage system, since it is a lower area, a lower portion. And in order to get that down and across the property, elevation wise, we don't have that ability. But just to give you an idea of the volume we're talking about, the volume reduction in cubic feet of stormwater runoff, not to get you bogged down in the numbers.
Well, how long is that?
It's about 400 cubic feet of stormwater runoff during the 10-year storm event that was previously discharging onto your property, which now won't be. And by gallonage, it's just a rough number. That's about 2,800 gallons of water that were previously flowing onto your property. That's being intercepted by the stormwater management system and directed to the infiltration basin and away from your property. So,
as Mr. Weiser, once they started clearing that lot years ago, I definitely noticed more water coming across my driveway.
Did you say 200 cubic feet?
It was 409 cubic feet.
Okay. Yep, 7.5 times 409, that gets your number. I thought you said 200.
Sorry.
My next concern would be excavation. As Mr. Ruski, on number 7 there, you talk about if any rock should be encountered. Obviously, we're in a pack on, there's a lot of rock, it's all ledge. Yeah.
And we found it.
Yeah, it's all ledge. So I'm hoping they don't plan on blasting. I don't know how you're going to excavate all that. You're putting in a lot of underground, sewer lines, the water line, your storm drain line. I'm not sure. I'm concerned.
We would anticipate some hammering, trench excavation through hammering to provide adequate depth for those utilities. The house itself has been designed with a half basement to limit the amount of rock excavation required for the construction of the home. So yeah, we've tried to minimize the amount of rock excavation required. Obviously, it's an expense that would like to decrease to the maximum extent practical, and also decrease any impact to during construction on the adjoining property, such as yourself.
Would you be blasting if you run into rock that you can't excavate, Mr. Robine?
If there is any blasting, it'll be in accordance with the ordinance requirements. It's hard to say exactly what rock conditions we'll find. We did find fractured bedrock during our soil testing, where we cited our stormwater management system, and can only equate that throughout the rest of the property. As far as how competent that bedrock is to the depth, we don't have any further information on that at this time. Obviously, it'd be the intent is to do any hammering, rock excavation through hammering. The expense of blasting is significantly higher, and certainly want to avoid that to any extent practical. If that requires any rerouting of some of the utilities to avoid such rock excavation, we can work to do that once it's known what the depth and the competency of the bedrock is.
I can tell you, most people have above ground pools for a reason.
Yep. And that's what we're proposing, an above ground pool.
Okay.
Maybe.
And
put it on
my
the
one more concern is I
Go
don't
ahead,
know if
sir.
there's any future plans to try and open up the right of way of D Road, which I would.
Plans by whom, sir?
By this homeowner or the town or I don't know how I go about finding that out. I don't know. That's something to be.
Well, there'd be no intentions of the applicant to do that to the right of way.
Yeah, keep a nice buffer between us would be nice.
Sure.
Mr. Reschke, do you know if the borough has any plans on opening D Road?
No, the borough has no plans to develop that. There's
I
no,
didn't think so.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay, anybody else from the public want to comment or question this application? Anybody at all? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board.
I actually do have one.
Oh, you have one, okay. Who do we
Where we
have?
at?
Yeah, so Jim Fitzpatrick, I live at 30 Oakwood Road in Hopatcong.
Oh,
So
Mr. Fitzpatrick. Yeah, Mr. Fitzpatrick, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So I'm the house to, he describes us to the left. So we're across the street from Bob's house, who testified earlier. And I just, everybody knows that there is a tennis court there. So I don't know how they missed it, because if you walk in that area, you can actually see the cement through some of the leaves, etc. So that is there, and it is going to create a drainage problem. Bob is correct. After the couple that owned the house or the land before this gentleman, I believe, according to the borough, they came in without a permit, brought in bulldozers, brought in, the heavy equipment, and they basically just leveled the land as far as any trees, any growth. There's some weeds starting to grow finally, but, that's all there is. And it does flow heavily onto Oakwood Road. So it is an issue. And, if they could take that tennis court out and put a rain garden down there, it's so far down on their property, that something like a rain garden or something that catches the water, before it flows onto Oakwood Road and then runs down the street and, onto Bob's property, that would be beneficial. And we're also a little worried about some of the runoff that's going to come on our property as well. As you showed the map with the lines on it, it just seemed to be that, now it's going to kind of flow more, as they grade the house and they basically do that particular area, it's going to flow more on our property and down towards our house. So that's also a worry for us. And the final thing is, we hope that they keep the buffer that's between the properties. The prior people ripped most of it out, but there is some left. So we hope that they keep the buffer and maybe even add to it as they build this house. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Getting back to that tennis court, would it be at all possible to tear up the grounds to, as he said, to put in a rain garden, perhaps?
Mr. Robine, do you have any thoughts or comment about that?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and again, going back to my site inspection when we were doing soil testing, that tennis court was not very evident. It was very overgrown, and I don't deny that it exists. The removal of that concrete, although will require some temporary disturbance to do so, would certainly help reduce the amount of stormwater runoff to Oakwood Road. There's no doubt about that. The viability of a rain garden, again, rain gardens are dependent upon how much water they receive. The drainage areas here in this area are very small. So to support a rain garden wouldn't necessarily be, I don't believe that there's enough water to support the plantings that a rain garden would need. However, the removal of any kind of concrete or impervious coverage in that area would certainly have an impact on the amount of runoff leaving the site.
Okay, thank you.
Would that increase the variance that we need for disturbed area?
I mean, essentially, yes. We would need to gain access through critical slope areas off of Oakwood Road to gain access to that tennis court area, as based on the slope map that we had prepared. It does slope up rather sharply from Oakwood Road up to that general level area that we're talking about. So there would require some additional disturbance to steep slopes that gain access for that removal. It would be temporary in nature.
Can I ask you a question on balance? let's fast forward. Let's assume that the board, just for the sake of discussion, let's assume that the board votes favorably tonight. Given your earlier testimony about the amount of runoff coming in from above us and the amount of runoff leaving our site and the stormwater management system you put on our property, on balance, if we left the tennis court alone and installed all these systems that you want, would there be less runoff when the job is done? Or would we be creating more of a problem if we were to disturb and rip up the tennis court?
Regardless of the tennis court, our calculations would not change. The tennis court would be added in as impervious coverage under existing conditions, and it would stay as under proposed conditions. So it wouldn't materially change the peak rate of the volume of the stormwater leaving the site or reductions. It would basically just be a wash between existing and proposed conditions.
It would be a benefit. Why don't you just remove the pad and just restore?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
Mr. DeVecchi, are you willing to do that? Muzo, are you still with us?
Yes, yes, I'm right here. Absolutely. I will do everything in my power to not bother my neighbors. I will do absolutely no problem.
Good man.
Thank
All
you.
right, we could either put it in a resolution that it has to be removed, or we could continue the application while you look into what has to be done. Either way. Mr. McCarthy and Mr.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question for Mr. Romine. I mean, based on your drawings and your testimony, there will be a net decrease of stormwater runoff off this property. Is that correct?
Overall, yes.
Okay.
This overall.
Yeah, for the 2 and 10 year storm, if it's a 100-year storm, you haven't mitigated that, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So for very, for the very substantial storm, the 100-year storm, you're not doing it, but for the 2 and the 10, you are.
That's correct.
So can I ask the question then, if the plans that you're putting together now decrease the stormwater runoff, would the neighbors that here are indicating they're getting the stormwater now because the previous owner cleared things and now they're getting more, effects from that? Is that going to decrease the effects of that? Remove those effects? What is your percentage of effects on that current condition going to do when you put this place in?
They're going to establish vegetation. That's what they're going to do. Right now, this is disturbed. So once they stabilize it, they get grass growing, they stabilize the areas, it'll mitigate some of the issues.
Okay.
I think you'd want to clean up that tennis court anyway. You're building a pretty nice house there. You think you'd want to get that slab and ugly brush up anyway.
And Mr. Chairman, going back to your point, I think the best approach would be to put it in the resolution as a condition, and my client has testified that he'd be more than willing to do it, and hopefully that solves the problem.
All right, I have one further question about it. Is the tennis court is it above or below the that stone wall as we look at the plans?
Below.
Below, thank you. Okay.
I mean, John, would it be the resolution I get addressing the tennis court, the overall effect of the stormwater going down? The tennis court's only one issue. So it does the whole calculation of stormwater runoff be in the resolution is what I would want to see. That's because it'd be a total positive effect for the neighbors.
I think it's reflected in their calculations and their drawings already. I don't think we need to put an additional comment on that.
Okay.
I mean, the way it looks now, that whole bottom third of that lot is not going to be touched. Now, if we go in there, we rip up that tennis court and tear all that up, then you're going to have a runoff problem.
Yeah, you have to stabilize it right away.
Yeah.
So if the tennis court's removed, then the area will be replanted. It'll be graded and replanted. That's the intent, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's leave it as
impervious.
Okay. All right. Anybody else from the public? Okay, let me bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Alan?
Yes, John.
Just one more suggestion I would have, and it's not something that's going to be a condition that's mandatory, but just kind of more symbolic, is that, you know, perhaps they should, as a condition, they approach the borough to see if there's a willingness to vacate D Drive. Because really we have no purpose of, I do not anticipate that being improved. We already have sheds that are encroaching onto it. We do have a water main going through it, but we commonly vacate paper roads with easements. And so it may be something that, you know, it will help the variance of a lot width if we vacate it, a portion of it. It's not going to eliminate the variance, but it is something, and just something to put in the resolution and suggest to them that if they should, you know, pursue that possibility.
Okay.
Good point, John.
That's good. All right. What is the pleasure of the board? Would somebody like to make a motion?
On the basement, what's the story with the 40 by 20 basement? We have no idea what's going down there. We have half of it's crawl space, but then the other half is a 20 by 40 undeclared area.
Storage space? I don't.
Mr. Robine?
I'm not aware of what the internal uses of the basement area would be. Potentially a rec room, storage, rec room.
You know, we look at the bedroom issue, so it just can't be a bedroom.
Well, that would be an important issue if we wasn't. This house will be hooked up to the sewer system.
No, it's going to
It
be
is?
only the storage, so we're not going to use as a bathroom or anything else.
Yeah, but if the septic is one issue, when you hook up to the sewer is another issue.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, the project will be on municipal sewer.
All right, that solved part of that issue.
Yep.
Part of it.
Well,
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Let's approve it with.
Okay.
the
With all the
provisions. Relative
conditions?
to the- Yes,
Okay, that includes the removal of the tennis court and
Yes.
replant. Correct, okay.
I'll second that.
It also includes their looking into the possibility of
Vacating.
vacating. Okay. All right. Danielle?
Who was the second?
It was Anthony. Whoever, Anthony.
Anthony.
Anthony did it. Anthony's there.
Voting. Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
yes,
Mr. Riley,
yes,
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yes.
Alan.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. You have permission to build this.
Thank
with the
you.
conditions, and don't forget that if you don't start the pool within 2 years, you have to come back and ask for an extension.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
you,
in terms of, Mr. Robine,
Yeah.
any issues in terms of waiving memorialization for any kind of permits? Do you see that as applicable here? Or can we wait a month?
We're
Well, you're,
gonna need to update the plan. I want to show the location of the that tennis court more precisely.
Yeah.
Perhaps get it uncovered so we could have it accurately located, so we can define the limits that needs to be removed, and the access to it.
Okay, thank you.
and the whole vacating of that road, that whole vacating of the road, that's a whole different process. We got to put that in front of the council and make that happen. So that is a total and separate process from this application. So
Yeah,
that has to be
we need to go
in front of my council.
Yeah, we need to go in front of the council and we get approval for the driveway within the D road right away. So I would think at that time, a petition could be made.
Right.
Well, that's not necessarily true. You take one issue at a time. And
Yes.
So to suggest that the council governing body can do anything by resolution in this case is not appropriate.
Right.
I guess just a point of clarification.
Right.
I got the idea that the board felt it would be nice and beneficial if we were to, if the council was to, mayor and council were to vacate that right away. But if for some reason, unbeknownst to us, unforeseen, they deny doing it, it shouldn't have any negative impact on our application or our approval.
No, we've made the suggestion that you look into it.
Okay,
That's
That's
all.
right.
it'd be more than
Just
welcome to that.
It's separate issues, completely separate issues.
Right.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Okay,
Thank you.
next we have Stephen and Kathleen Johnson, block 31402, lot 59, 3 Lakeland Drive. Applicant is requesting variances for a one-car garage with bonus room above, repairing existing oversized dock and outside decking. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, are you here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Who is going to is anybody going to be testifying on your behalf?
Not at this point, no. We'll be representing ourselves for the purposes of
Bill, do you want to
these
swear
issues.
them in?
I'll be testifying. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, please raise your right hands. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
And your names, please.
Stephen Johnson?
Kathleen Roth Johnson?
And you're the property owners?
Yes.
Can I ask you one question, just because on your application, you print in property to be used as a second residence and principal residence.
Correct.
This is only going to be used as a single family home. You're not having two separate residential uses of this property, are you?
Correct. It's a single family home. It'll be used as a single family home. It is currently our second residence. Following construction, we intend for it to be our principal residence.
Okay, it'll only be one single residence. That's what I wanted to make sure. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. and or Mrs. Johnson, do you want to explain to us what you want to do then?
Sure. We are seeking variance relief from several ordinances, including 242-38D4 front yard setback and 242-38D5 side yard setback, as well as the other ordinances within our application to build and expand the size of our home to include a single car garage in the front. When looking at the house from Lakeland Drive, on the front left-hand side of the house where the driveway is, as well as on top of the garage, an additional bonus room. Overall, that construction would reduce our front yard setback, as noted in our plans, to 15.8 feet from its existing 22 feet, all of which was non-conforming from when the house was built originally.
Are you in receipt of Mr. Rushke's letter of April 26th, 2011?
We are in receipt of that
2021?
as well, yes. Yes, we are, and we've noted his comments and suggestions, and we will make those adjustments to the plans, as well as include them in the construction plans and our overall completion of the project.
Okay.
Additional variance relief would be for the existing dock. So the dock is pre-existing and non-conforming in terms of its size and width. It was that way as we bought it. It was that way when the previous owner owned the house as well. The dock in one side is in need of repair. We went to pull a permit after receiving some estimates for either replacement or repair of the dock. And we're informed by Mr. Donegan that the dock itself is, it's at its current configuration is not on the current plans of the house. So we're seeking variance relief for the pre-existing dock so that we can get permits to repair it, but not change its current footprint.
Okay. Are you going to, what are your plans with the dock? Are you going to replace the whole thing or just repair the portion that's falling in? What are you planning?
As of right now, our plans would be to repair the portion that's falling in. We have estimates from 3 different dock providers in the area, 2 of which have provided estimates to repair, 1 of which has provided an estimate to replace the entire thing.
Okay, and you're leaning toward repairing rather than replacing?
Yes.
Okay, so it would only be that portion, I'm looking at the plans, the portion to the right side where it's caving in, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, anybody else from the board have comments or questions? Okay, let me continue then.
Hold on, Alan, hold on.
Go ahead.
I thought,
No, we're still on the
oh
board.
no, we're good, we're good, we're good.
Okay. No, I have another comment. When I was over there looking, I noticed that no other homes in the area have these garages that come off the front of the house. And I wonder if it would affect the area. To have, you make that turn onto Lakeland Drive and you got this big garage in front of you rather than just an emptiness.
Well, I'm not sure that there is emptiness as you describe it as you go down Lakeland Drive. There's fences and other individuals' cars. Overall, our plans are minimize the impact to the front setback, as well as all of our plans maintain the existing width of the house as well as the existing height of the house. So the overall, with the exception of the addition of the garage, the total footprint of the house itself remains relatively the same as it currently exists. And in fact, in reference to the Lake Hopatcong Commission's comments that we received today about the overall lot coverage and building coverage, our architect updated Plan A, Sheet A1 of the plans that you all received to indicate that overall lot coverage would only increase 3.5% through the entire project, and overall building coverage increased 6.6% of the plans as we've currently submitted.
Does your property have public water and sewer?
We have public water, we have septic.
What you call the bonus room is a bedroom. There's a full bath with that.
Correct. It could be, it could be considered a bedroom, yes. It's the number of.
No, it would be, and we are at the health department, but still you should be cognizant that you're adding a bedroom, and you must, before you get too deep into this, you should investigate that.
We're not adding a bedroom because we're taking away bedrooms elsewhere in the house as we do the interior renovation. So total number of bedrooms.
How many bedrooms are there now?
There are currently 4 bedrooms in the house, and there will be 4 bedrooms remaining.
Okay, I thank you for that. And there'll be 4, okay, got it, okay.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, I will open it to the public. Would anybody from the public like to comment or question this application? Anybody at all? If you do, please go to the bottom of your screen and on the reactions, raise your hand. Ron, do you see anyone?
No, sir, I don't.
Nor do I. Okay, I will bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board? Would anybody like to make a motion?
We grant these variances.
We're going to include the provision to repair the dock, not replace it, Alan?
Yes.
Yep.
That's what he said he was doing.
Yep.
We're going to have 4 bedroom before and after construction.
Right.
And I think that's it. Is that it, John?
Yeah, no, that's it. So, Bobby, you,
I made the motion, yes.
I'll second
it.
okay?
Mr.
All right,
Duncan,
Danielle?
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Ms. Rock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Toppin,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
No. Okay, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, for attending tonight. You have our permission.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would there be any reason to want to get into some aspects like the dock very quickly?
Such as?
Well,
Memorialization.
just the waiver of the memorialization, I just wanted to remind.
Oh, okay. Mr. Johnson, are you going to be going ahead with the repair of the dock very soon?
No, based on current scheduling of contractors, we have plenty of time. So
Okay.
we weren't seeking waiver of any memorialization.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again for coming.
Thank
Bill,
you.
do you have a zoning officer report for us?
No, not this evening.
Okay, discussion. I think we have a letter we're going to discuss. Yes, there it is. Who is this letter for? Is this yours, Mr. Mayor?
What's
State of
that?
New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection.
Ron, you're up.
Yes, that's me.
Ron.
That's me. What that is, we're applying for a grant. We're applying for several grants, but this one is specifically for a development grant for monies that will replace the skate park, that will resurface the roller rink, and replace all the bocce courts up at the senior center. And what we need is just a letter of support, as indicated by the grant writer, that the land use board is in support of these initiatives that the borough wants to undertake. It's a grant that allows us up to $400,000. We can apply up to $400,000 for these types of activities.
And what do you think the total cost would be for everything you're asking here?
Oh, I have
Would it
no
be?
idea at this point. We know the skate park is anywhere around $150,000 to $175,000 alone with the new technology. We want to totally resurface the roller rink because we've been chasing the crack in the middle of that now since I've been there, and we've never been able to catch it. So we want to totally redo that. And the bocce courts are probably minimum. I'm guessing somewhere around $350,000 in total is what we would probably
Okay, so the
expend.
400,000 would cover the whole thing.
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. We'd be in great shape if we got the whole 400. We might be able to do something else, but that's the projects we've identified.
Great. All right. Does somebody want to make a motion that we as the Hopatcong Land Use Board send this letter to the State of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection?
I'll make that motion. I think it's a great idea.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Rock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Toppin,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler.
Do I even vote on this since it's going to come back in front of us?
No.
Yeah,
I
actually,
should recuse myself.
Rich, the mayor's going to sign one like it. So it's already taken from the council side as well.
I'll just skip them. Mr.
There
Gilbert.
you go.
Yes, definitely. Okay, thank you very much, Ron.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Resolutions. First, we have Raymond Chaplin. The hearing date was May 4th, 2021. Motion. These resolutions have been distributed electronically. Are there any additions or corrections to the Chaplin resolution? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution permitting the expansion and replacement of decks, construction of pergola, and new paver patio at 13 Cove Road.
Make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mr. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Same.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Abstain.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. Janelle 3 LLC, May 4th, 2021. I have a question for Mr. Haggerty. This is a D resolution. The council member and mayor did not hear this, or well, they heard it, but they didn't have any input. So do they get to vote on the resolution?
No, they don't.
Okay. And then, as Mr. Haggerty has explained to me, this is a quirk in the land use legislation. Although it took 5 positive votes to pass the variance, it only takes a single positive vote to pass the resolution.
It's a majority of the members who were qualified to vote. To be qualified to vote, you can't be a class 1 member. And also you would have had to have voted to approve the application. So if we had a quirky situation where there was only one such individual, that individual could make a motion and vote. But everybody who's qualified to vote should vote this. Everybody who voted in favor of this.
Okay, so that's just 5 of us,
Mhm.
right? Okay, motion is in order then. Are there any additions or corrections, first of all?
No, sir.
Okay, motion is in order to approve the Janelle 3 LLC for amended preliminary and final site plan approval, to amend a prior resolution correcting a lot number reference, and to relocate and approve building and use variance approval authorizing construction of a 2-bedroom residential dwelling unit. Somebody want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Riley and me.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second it, but in.
Okay. Go ahead, Danielle. There are only 5 of us.
I don't remember the 5 off the top of my head.
I was one.
I was one.
Yeah.
We got
That's 3.
Mr.
I'm
Duncan,
number 4.
I voted yes.
Mr. Haggerty, is this the 5 that voted in the original meeting?
Yes.
The 5 that voted
So-
in the meeting, unless
So if
some,
we witness the whole thing as we can't participate in this. And in other words, we saw the video on this as well as we did with the Bella thing, so.
They didn't
Correct.
vote on it, though.
right.
Huh?
I got the 5. I got the 5.
Okay, that's good.
Call it, Danielle.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
and Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Correspondence. I don't see any correspondence. Does anybody have correspondence? No? Okay, escrow refunds. There are none. Shall we pay the bills?
Pay the bills.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crock,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Tappan,
Yes.
Councilman Schindler,
Yes.
Mayor Francis,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes. Okay, I will open the meeting to the public for discussion of any items at all. Would anybody like to address the board at this time? If so, please go to the bottom of your screen and on reactions, raise the hand. Anybody at all on any items, any issues? Okay, I don't see any. Do you, Ron?
No, not at all.
Okay, then I will bring it back to the board. Any old business?
Edge. Ron.
Danielle, do you want to, have you been able to get the pictures that you need?
I didn't get all the pictures yet. So as people bring their packets back, I'll get more pictures.
Okay,
And please,
Ron
please
wants
don't blame,
one.
Do we need to
Please
bring the
don't-
packets back?
supposed to.
We usually do.
I love paper.
Mm.
And please don't break the camera.
Okay, any new business?
We gonna go to the Borough Hall in the near future for meetings, or are we gonna stay with the format of Zoom?
Ask Mr. Francis. Mayor Francis?
I'm still waiting from, short answer is no. Although they've changed numbers, they have not changed distance. And so unless we can have a meeting and allow all public that wants to come in, we'll keep the meeting on Zoom.
Okay.
If they say it's unlimited on everything, then we'll go back to in-person meeting. But right now, there's still a distance requirement in place for indoors.
Right.
I thought that was voided.
Nope. Maybe this week. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, I thought they voided it, but it's still early.
As of today, there's still a distance requirement in place.
Okay, anything else? Ms. Crock,
Motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned.